And being incarcerated, I don't like nobody standing beside me, too close to the side of me. I remember the judge telling me 30 years, none suspended. I'm like, damn, I probably never see the streets again. I was like, it was 30 years, but like, at 17, you like 30 years, what I'm gonna do with all that? And I also been, studying and doing a lot of research on a podcast, man. Just looking at my own situation. Honestly, I feel like my biggest challenge was being out here today, is that every day I have to remind myself that I'm not incarcerated anymore. But in all actuality, that's only in the physical sense. Because mentally, certain characteristics, they are not easy to shake. Some people may be institutionalized. Some people may be, antisocial. Some people just may be, angry birds. Whatever, me personally, and I will personalize, what I'm saying. My biggest thing is, for one, I'm antisocial. I know how to deal with people, but a lot of times I won't deal with people if I don't have to. I know how to interact with someone business-wise, I know how to be cordial, but I'd rather not. If it's not a necessity, I'd rather be by myself. And I know for a fact that only comes by way of prison and the time that I've spent in prison. But don't think, again, that you can personalize this disposition, because it's only a defense mechanism. I feel like if I don't associate myself, then you cannot harm me. If I don't open myself up to you, then you cannot harm me. And this is what causes individuals to be antisocial. Also, this is a part of being institutionalized.
For real. I'm sitting there thinking like, man, because I've been home for a little bit, but it's like really grew up in them places, but now like we here, man.
I could remember, man, sitting in that cell, age 17, age 18, 19. I would tell myself like, man, this ain't about nothing. I chose that life. I accepted that life, so meaning I gotta accept the consequences that come with it. True. But I could just remember now, and it's often that I, trace back to the time that I spent inside that cell, man, alone, by myself. No mommy, no daddy, no big brother, no little brother, no sister, no aunt, no uncle, by myself. And I remember thinking like, damn, tomorrow not promised, but imagine looking at 30 years. So the time got to me, and that's what caused me to lash out. I feel like the walls be talking to you sometimes. And that's just in the metaphorical sense. But in the literal sense, it's just you and your mind. That's the walls. You don't got nobody to ping the ideas off of. You just got your mind, so you in your head, so now you thinking. And everything is intensified. And you start to think about the people that left you. You start to think about all the chicks that you might have had when you was home that don't want to be bothered with you. All the phone calls that's not being answered, or people I done had, family, so-called family, hang the phone up on me over a minor disagreement, or don't answer the phone. The effects of that is long-term, but to them, they can't fathom that. So all of that stuff played a part in like the lashing out phase as well as the growing. You know what I mean? Like I said, I experienced both of it, and I'm still growing. I ain't stopped. I ain't stopped yet. I ain't done yet. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But I remember them walls talking back to you, and it's just you alone, you and your thoughts, you and yourself. And when you don't know yourself, that's one of the scariest things to deal with when you're in prison, because you got to learn yourself. That means you got to start from scratch. You got to, peel a Band-Aid off of some wounds that ain't never been, peeled off before. You got to reopen, you got to relive them scars, that trauma. You got to relive some things that, to try to get to the problem. Not saying that you'll ever really get to the basis of the problem, but that's a start, you know what I mean? I don't wish prison on nobody, not even my worst enemy. It's a living hell, literally. It's a living hell. My only advice to individuals that's still incarcerated: take your time with learning you. Embrace you for you. And once you do that, you'll start to see the sun where the sun ain't never shone before. And I know that to be a fact.
Like, what you gonna do now? Listen, when you out here, man, you gotta get it done. Like, you gotta be on top of your game out here, man. It's a lot of distractions.
Sometimes coming home, a part of debriefing is venting. And sometimes a part of venting, when you vent, you need somebody to listen. I don't need you to talk, but I need you to listen. Even if you don't understand, listening will take you a long way. Because you just may learn how to understand if you listen well. But people would personalize my disposition. And I told someone, I said, man, that's very selfish. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I explained to them, like, you cannot personalize this, because my disposition that I'm taking is not towards you. It's not because of you. You're not the cause of it. But you can be the cause of a further separation or much more coarse disposition because of the stance that you take and personalizing, my disposition that I take. When you come home from the long stints in prison, you got to debrief again. And I always say you have to debrief, because you cannot emphasize that enough. Because a lot of people don't understand that when you're in the phases of debriefing, everybody is different. It may take a year for this person, it may take a couple months for this person, according to the time that you did in prison. I would wish that people just don't personalize it when somebody come home from prison if they don't want to talk all the time, or they don't want to, not even say they want to, they don't know how to. They spent over a decade in prison, and you expect them to just come home and be reacclimated just off of being let out of the prison after being incarcerated for over a decade and more, and even less than that. So if people really want to be a proper support system for an individual, listen. Don't personalize, but listen. People that you thought you knew, in all actuality, you don't know them anymore. They don't know you anymore. They told me I couldn't do it. I'm just showing them I'm doing it, that's all. I ain't doing it for them, I'm doing it for me. But when they really sit you down, and you sitting inside that cell, it's a whole different ball game, man. It's a whole different mentality that you gotta tap into. It's a whole different you that you gotta tap into.